Hi, I'm Dr. John Young, medical doctor here at Foundational Health Center in Largo, Florida.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm a nurse practitioner.
And we've been working together for 40, 50 years.
Oh, gosh.
For a long time.
Yeah.
And our practice is more alternative, you might say, but it's more getting to the root of a problem. Not just giving out a lot of pills and trying to, stop your complaints, but getting to the root of a problem. And I'll tell you this, it really, if you don't deal with diet, in my training, diet, we didn't do much, but one of the things we always do is we ask people, what do you have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? And diet is extremely important. And, I want your thoughts on this, but people always come in and say, John, I eat really, really healthy.
Yes.
Like for breakfast, I'll have steel organic ground oatmeal.
Yeah.
I'll have one range-free egg.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For lunch, I'll have dolphin-free tuna on organic lettuce.
Yes.
And for dinner, I'll have some range-free chicken and some organic asparagus. And maybe for dessert, I'll have a piece of dark chocolate.
Oh, wow. That sounds like a great diet.
Well, then what am I supposed to say when they tell me they have diabetes?
Yes.
And they have a belly that's out to here.
Yes. Then you know something's off and something's wrong. And that's where the question comes in. A lot of times we have the patients that have diabetes and have those problems or hypertension. And they say, well, but what am I supposed to eat? What am I supposed to eat? I'm eating, but the thing is, are you eating like that every day? And does it make a difference if it's organic or not? That's also the question. And how much?
Exactly.
Does it make a difference?
So Alex and I order a couple of basic tests. And one of them is a fasting insulin.
Yeah.
Not glucose, insulin.
Not A1C.
But fasting insulin. And the Center for Disease Control has said doctors need to order that test for the last 20 years.
Yep.
It tells you really about where you're going to go with hypertension and diabetes 10 years before it ever happens to you. And so when we have this typical patient, which I just talked about,
Yep.
And in our practice, they tell us this, but I'm looking at them and I see this little belly.
Right.
And I see, oh, you start some blood pressure medicines.
Right.
And so I will get the insulin level back, and it may be 10 or 11.
Is that high?
On the charts, it says it's normal.
Right.
They think anything up to 20 is normal. But for our practice, we want it 4 or 5.
Right.
Because we're dealing with disease. And so when they have high insulin levels, what do you do for the patient?
And that's the major test. That's huge. I mean, that's gigantic, because we can have the conversation about what you're eating, like you said, but then you see the test and you're like, no, something's off. Something's way off, because your insulin should not be 20 and you're eating organic and clean. So that's when we sit down and we go into the nitty gritty, exactly what you're eating, what you're drinking, and then people kind of remember things a little bit better once we get the test back. But I do get the question though. I always get this question lately. I mean, would it be better, Alex, if I just go on a plant-based diet because it's more natural and then my insulin is going to go down? Isn't that better? It's better for you. They tell you it's better for your heart. Is that better?
One of the things that I've learned over the years is this. Everybody, we think that someone reads, I'm going to be a vegetarian or a paleo, and I found out it's just so individualized.
True.
My neighbor and their family are vegetarians and they are worth billions of dollars and everything's perfect and no health problems. And then I tried to go that way and I came up with scurvy or whatever.
Yep.
You deal a lot with this.
Yes.
Yes. Tell us some of the
So my thoughts are exactly what you're saying. That's why we practice medicine. You know, we're not in the business of doing theoretical thinking. We are in the business of practicing with individual patients on a daily basis. So we take each patient individually. So we address the diet question. Should I go on a keto diet? Should I go on a plant-based diet? Should I go on whatever diet on an individual base depending on their needs? So, but the only thing that I have seen, because we do a lot of genetic testing, and one of the things that I've seen is that the patients that go on a plant-based diet only with no animal protein whatsoever, or they ask me if they should do that, in order for me to be ethical, the way I answer that question, I say, I don't know. I would like to see your genetic profile, because what happens is that some people have certain genetic mutations that they cannot convert certain nutrients to the optimal nutrient that they need for their eyes, for their brain, for their bones. So I'll give you an example. There's a mutation that some people have that they cannot convert from beta carotene to vitamin A. So meaning those people, if they go on a plant-based diet and they just eat carrots, they won't make vitamin A, retinol, they won't make it. But that's essential. Vitamin A is so important. It's important for your brain, for your immune system, for your eye health. So if that person that has several mutations on that pathway, if they don't supplement with vitamin A, they run the risk of sometimes going blind. So it can be tricky. Now, vitamin A, it's one of the vitamins that not a lot of people recommend. Not a lot of doctors will recommend that, but a very common one is B12. And some patients on a plant-based diet, they won't be able to have an optimal level of vitamin B12. So what I tell patients is that if I know your genetic profile and I know that you won't be able to convert vitamin A, vitamin B12, vitamin D3, so then I will tell you, okay, you can go plant-based and I will monitor for you those levels so you don't become deficient, because what happens is that it can start having neurological problems. Your cholesterol will be great on a plant-based diet, but you don't want to have neurological issues.
You'll feel terrible.
You'll feel terrible, basically. So you kind of you need a doctor, somebody to help you navigate through all these different diets that we have it today.
And that's why I think just because your neighbor does well on something doesn't mean you're going to do well.
Yes.
Now, let's say it's a normal person.
All right.
And a little bit of a belly. And what do you do if they're saying, all right, I'm pre-diabetic, I've got high blood pressure, I've got a little belly, and I do like my meats and I eat some vegetables, but I mean, you know, if I have an egg in the morning, I have a little bit of tuna fish on my salad at lunch, and at dinner I have 4 ounces of salmon, and I'm trying to eat healthy, but why did I end up with diabetes and hypertension?
Right. So, and I think I know where you're going with this, because this is what I would recommend. My next step would be to go on a fast. You know, I do feel like it is a thing now. Everyone's talking about, should I do, a 16-hour fast, a 24-hour fast? I think sometimes, because what happens is weight and glucose is cumulative. So over time, as you keep eating the same way, you end up like 10 years is how long we kind of wait and just see what happens, and then you're like, just wait, and then you're diabetic. So 10 years is the time frame. So it's cumulative. So I always say, if you want to kind of hurry up and get it done, eating less, going on a fast. I think that's then again with the help of a healthcare professional, because you don't know if you're going to be low in electrolytes and things like that. I feel like you do have to have some help to navigate through that. But I think that's one thing that I would do. What would you do?
Well, I think when I talked about fasting, it's very interesting. My wife got really upset with me.
Oh.
She says, John, listen, people are not going to want to fast.
Yeah.
And you just need to let it go. Well, I started talking to my patients, and lo and behold, 2 to 3 patients every single day said, I want to fast. And so I put them on a fast. And I like the water fast.
The water fast, yes.
And we have a little pamphlet that has tricks of the trade to help get through some of those tougher times when you're
Right.
fasting. But 98% of them came back so happy.
Yeah.
My diabetes is gone. My blood pressure, I'm off all the medicines. Because when you fast, you reset the body system.
Okay.
Now, I did have a guy
Mhm.
that he fasted for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And he told me, I got down, the belly was gone,
Yeah.
feeling great. And then I said, but I'm looking at you now and you're
Well,
actually wearing bigger clothes. Well, yeah, I fasted and then I just went back to eating like I always do.
Yeah, that can happen.
And the thing that we want to say is this, that whether you fast or not, one of the things that we've really pushed in our practice is, if you look at the textbooks of physiology, you need 1 gram of protein for every 2.2 pounds of body weight.
Yep.
And so when I get these 200-pound guys and they're living off oatmeal and toast, and then for lunch, just grab a hamburger, and for dinner, maybe have an 8-ounce steak and vegetables,
Mhm.
and then an ice cream snack later on, they aren't getting the protein.
They're not getting the protein.
And a quick rule of thumb is this: take your weight, divide by 2.2, and that's about how many grams of protein you need a day. I never go over 100 grams of protein a day with any of my patients. If you weighed 500 pounds, I'd say 100 grams. And then 1 egg is 8 grams of protein.
Yep.
4 ounces of fish, chicken, beef, pork, whatever, is 15 grams.
Yeah.
So 8 ounces is 30 grams. And that's the most you can absorb at one time. Eating a 48-ounce steak, you can only absorb 30 grams of protein.
And the interesting thing about that is that those foods will not raise your insulin.
Correct.
But if I have oatmeal, then you're going to have
Right.
a rise in insulin. And higher your insulin goes and stays, that's when you hold on to fat. So basically the insulin hormone just keeps putting fat away in your belly, and it keeps you hungry. So the benefit of eating the protein or doing the fast is that you always keep your insulin levels low, so you're not overeating, and you're also giving nutrition to your muscles, because protein is how you build your DNA.
Right. And your immune system is made out of protein.
Right.
So when insulin goes up, you know you're taking in too many carbohydrates. And a little trick of the trade is 4 carbs equal 1 teaspoon of sugar.
Okay.
As someone brought me in some organic yogurt, all natural, this is it.
Yeah.
And it had, in that little 4 ounces, 35 carbs.
That's a lot.
Let's see, that's about 9 teaspoons of sugar in that little container.
It's a lot of sugar.
So, we have our patients make sure that they get enough protein when they go back to eating normally and they're not fasting, whatever,
Right.
so that they can make their immune system.
Right.
They keep the insulin low.
Yeah.
When people tell me they get these hypoglycemic episodes, it's really because they have high insulin. They really lose
That
control.
was going to be my next question, because I do have a patient that her blood work showed up with the blood sugar glucose, fasting glucose of 60. And she was telling me how she has these blood sugar spells where it goes so low, and she needs to drink some orange juice and do something and she's never been able to fix that. Like, how do you fix that?
Then that's where I would give them more protein.
Yep.
And because you reset an insulin receptor with protein.
Okay. Yep.
It's not, there's no pill out there.
Right. Yeah. For low blood sugar.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's no pill to reset insulin receptors.
And then the other question that I always get a lot is, patients ask me, so what is the diet that you advocate? What is the diet that I should do or your patient should do? I don't know how you answer that question, but I always say it depends.
Well,
Everyone's different.
see, I was going to say that also. Yes, it does depend. I tell people, if they're going to go vegetarian,
Yeah.
I think that vegetarian diets are usually low in lysine and methionine.
Oh yeah, that's
So
the
I'll
other
have
thing.
them supplement with maybe 1,000 milligrams of lysine and 500 milligrams of methionine.
Right.
And then the other thing is, I'm just saying, how do you do? Because they may not be really a vegetarian person because
True.
of some genetic things. But for most of them, I tell them, just get the protein up.
Yeah, that's so important.
And when you do that, it covers a multitude of sins.
Yeah.
You automatically reduce your carbohydrate intake. And face it, we in America are heavily into carbs.
Yep.
And that's why we have the diabetes and hypertension. And that's why you see with the COVID, diabetes, hypertension, high insulin levels, they all show you that your immune system is not as strong as it could be. They're very strong risk factors for some of these diseases.
I think the CDC says that in the U.S., out of 10 people, 6 have chronic disease.
Right.
So it's a very high. And when we talk about chronic disease, we're really talking about what you just said. You know, obesity, diabetes, hypertension. All of those diseases we can trace back to insulin. All of that. So if you have hypertension, you should probably have your insulin tested, because it's not the first reaction that most doctors will have, but that should be tested.
Go back to what the CDC said, Center for Disease Control. Check the fasting insulin.
Yeah.
Listen, I've enjoyed talking about this.
That was
made me a
nice.
little bit hungry.
Yes.
But
we'll have
listen,
some protein.
We'll have some more of these videos coming out, but hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you later.